On a straight cash in, cash out analysis, roughly 80% of Canadians get back more than they pay in the carbon tax, and the net benefits for low-income Canadians is even higher still. It's significant there, and that's especially true in Alberta. It amounts to about a 3% boost in household income for low-income Albertans. So how is that not helping with the affordability crisis? Because if you get rid of the carbon tax, you get rid of the carbon rebate.
Well, it's got to be one or the other. I mean, is the tax there to cause people to make the investments that I talked about, which are multi-$1,000 investments, or is it there as some kind of income redistribution scheme? And if you're going to argue it's an income redistribution stream, then I guess I would have to argue that it doesn't go back to small businesses. The small businesses are they don't get the rebate. They just pay the tax, and then they have to work that into the price of all the goods that they have, and it gets passed on to customers. That's why the economic impact matters as well, is because you get a portion of it rebated to you, but then the price of everything you pay for ends up going up, which increases inflation. And when inflation goes up, then the Bank of Canada says, sorry, we can't cut your rates. When your rates don't get cut, then when you go to renew your mortgage, that's also more expensive. So I think that they're creating a greater inflation crisis. It'd be so much easier if they just said, hey, look, we recognize oil prices are going higher again. This is a big cost. We'll take that entire 17 cents a liter off while oil prices are high, because we know it's going to have an impact on you. That's what we did in Alberta. We gave $2.3 billion of relief over 2 years to do exactly that. And if the federal government wants to follow our model, that's what we do. When the rates are low, we end up having the tax back on. When the rates are high, we take them off so that we can give a bit of a break to people. And it works. Last year, we had the lowest level of inflation in the country. This year, with Scott Moe not collecting the carbon tax, he's got the lowest inflation rate in the country.
But the Bank of Canada, Premier, the Bank of Canada never cites carbon pricing as a reason for raising or holding rates. It's always international factors. It's always supply chain issues. It is increasingly provincial governments putting a lot of money into the pockets of their citizens and driving buying power. It's not carbon pricing. And Tiff Macklem has said that the direct effect of it is like 0.15%. The knock-on effect is 0.03%. We're talking 15 to 30 cents on $100. This is not the reason inflation and interest rates are high. It's a bunch of other factors, right? So isn't carbon pricing being kind of scapegoating here as the reason behind the inflation and affordability crisis when it's not the driving issue?
All I know is last January, when we had rebates for electricity, when we had rebates on fuel taxes, when we had our other affordability measures, we had the lowest inflation in the country. This year, with Scott Moe taking the fuel tax off of natural gas, he's got the lowest inflation rate in the country. So something else is going on there. Maybe the modeling is not taking into account all factors. I think it just stands to reason that when you have higher costs of energy, and energy goes into heating warehouses and transporting food, and all of those additional costs for gasoline and diesel and heating, it's going to increase the cost of goods. It's just, I think it's fairly obvious to most people that the cost of living goes up when those kinds of costs go up.
Okay, well, I maybe, but that's not what the Bank of Canada is saying, and that's not what a lot of the economic modeling is saying, at least the role the carbon price is playing in this. But just as a final point, Premier, I mean, if you get what you want, I know on April 1, your gas tax is going back up because of a drop in oil prices. You need that revenue to help with your budget. That's going to stack on top of the carbon tax increase. If you get what you want and this goes away at the federal level, and if you get what you want and the emissions cap goes away, then everyone's kind of counting on industry to do this without sort of federal pressure and a price signal that compels them or creates incentive for them to act in a way or face financial penalty. Doesn't that just amount to Canada lowering its ambition when it comes to emissions reduction? Because the consensus among economists is that pricing is the best way to do it, and everything else, technology regulation, is more expensive, more intrusive, and not as effective as creating incentive for big polluters to change.
Well, I'll take a difference of approach with the retail carbon tax, which I don't feel consumers can avoid, and it just becomes an extra cost for them, versus industrial pricing, which we have done since 2007. And in fact, our TIER program, it's our technology innovation and emissions reduction approach. We put a price on industrial carbon. Those companies that are performing better than average get a credit, which they can sell on the market. Those that are performing worse than average have to pay into a fund. We've had them pay over $2 billion into that fund that go into emissions reduction technologies. And our program has been affirmed by the federal government to be equivalent to the approach that they wanted to take until 2030. So we're going to continue with that approach because we see that it's working, but we need it to be at the provincial level. We certainly don't want to see the federal government take it over, and that's why we're going to continue to fight against it. But industrial pricing is it's a different ball game, because those are the companies that do have the billions of dollars to invest in the technological change. But we shouldn't be hurting seniors, those on fixed income, those who are vulnerable, by having the price of everything they pay for continue to go up with these carbon taxes that they simply can't avoid.